This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shasheena Rolle. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, it's been a struggle for many years for residents over the bridge in Lucaya, but after many months of lobbying and reaching out to the relevant authorities, residents now have reason to celebrate. This achievement is said to be the result of a strong partnership with the area's Member of Parliament and the Grand Bahama Power Company. It wasn't an easy fight for residents in the east, but they have finally gotten their wish and now have access to cable television services. According to Cable Bahamas Operations Manager Edris Wilson, the extension began in 2010. Wilson says it took approximately 3 weeks for technicians to complete the work in December, but she admits that partnership played a major role.
The cost of infrastructure and materials and so on from our end of it is always a cost, a big cost. But when you factor in this case, having to utilize Grand Bahama Power to put in additional poles or whatever is required, then of course that cost can be expensive.
Wilson says the overall project has cost the company hundreds of thousands of dollars. She says the challenge with East Grand Bahama is the distance between homes and the fact that not all residents are subscribing for the service.
The area is so very, very spread out. The homes are a lot of distances apart, and so that being the case, the infrastructure that would have been required would have been very capital intensive. You're talking about some heavy money here, and so that being the case, it was a major financial outlay for the company. That being said, the uptake from the residents over the bridge has been very dismal. For years, people had been asking us to provide service over here, to make the services available. We did, albeit it took some time, but also too, of course, now people aren't subscribing to it as we had initially expected.
For years now, residents over the bridge have gone without cable services. Member of Parliament for East Grand Bahama Peter Turnquest have heard the complaints firsthand. The MP partnered with Cable Bahamas to ensure that this long-awaited project came to fruition.
Over the last 2 years, we've been canvassing various neighborhoods to determine the needs. And one of the issues that keep coming up in various pockets is the need for cable services. And so we decided that we would make contact with Cable Bahamas to determine the requirements in order to extend the services into these areas. And we're very pleased to have received a very welcoming reception to our requests to extend the services in particular areas. And as we go along, we will continue to work with the partners to try and determine other infrastructural needs that are necessary in these communities, and where we can assist, we will certainly do our best.
In other news, the first murder trial of the new year got underway in the Supreme Court this morning. But before jurors would be selected, the accused in the case, 40-year-old Eric Alice, pled guilty to manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Alice pled guilty to the stabbing death of 57-year-old Stelvin Hall at the victim's home in 8 Mile Rock in September 2012. Police say the victim was stabbed in the chest following an altercation with a group of men that was allegedly connected to an earlier disagreement over a basketball game. Alice was represented by attorneys Carlton Sherland and Simone Brown. Senior Justice Hartman Longley presided. And detectives are investigating the discovery of 2 bullet-riddled bodies in Abaco. Officers were on mobile patrol near the SC Boodle High School around 3 o'clock on Saturday morning when they discovered a male occupant slumped over on the passenger side of a 2001 Blue Maxima with gunshot wounds to the body. Later that morning around 9 o'clock, officers discovered the body of another man lying in the street at Bahama Coral Island. The man was found with gunshot wounds to the back of the head. Officers from the Central Detective Unit here in Grand Bahama are assisting police in Abaco with those investigations. Now, police are aggressively investigating both incidents and are asking anyone with any information to contact telephone numbers in Abaco at 367-2560, 367-3437, in Grand Bahama 350-3107 or 8-911-919, or call your nearest police station. And 4 more suspects have been arrested in connection with that major drug haul here on Grand Bahama last Wednesday. On Friday, police took in custody 3 men and a 21-year-old woman of 8 Mile Rock. Police say the group was picked up from a hotel on Beachway Drive. Now, initially, officers arrested 8 suspects for questioning regarding the 42 bales of marijuana discovered when a 42-foot vessel pulled up on a beach in Holmes Rock. The drugs have a street value of over $2 million. The criminal element attacking a local church and the leader of that house of worship is making yet another appeal. John Davis Rolle has this story.
We're trying to be ambassadors of goodwill, but they're making it very, very difficult.
It is a vexing situation for Reverend Barry Morris, the pastor of a house of worship, which sits in a small coastal community. Vexing because for the past 10 years, he has been the leader at the Church of God of Prophecy at Hebron Town Mission, and thieves and vandals have struck not once.
They came, they kicked down the door.
Not twice.
They came another time, they kicked down the front door.
But 3 times.
This time, they entered in through a window. 3 strikes, you are out. And I want to let whoever know that's doing this, God has had enough of it. You know, you're taking advantage of God's people. You know, we're trying to help this community, and it's a disservice when you think that you have a right to steal from God and God's people.
This act of sacrilege, he says, is violating the sanctity of the church and is downright disgraceful.
This is a departure from our times when men would be walking past a congregation of worship and have their hats on. They would tip their hats and walk silently past. Now they blast their music, interrupting the church service. They have no fear of God. They have no fear of man.
The religious leader believes he not only has a pulse on the root cause of crime, but he also has some clear-cut solutions.
There's a pendulum of things that we need to do. You know, and I hear the outcry for capital punishment. That is one. That is one of the things that we need to consider and do. The Bible says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, then the sons of men, their hearts are set to do evil continually. And so it keeps increasing because there are no results. You go, you steal, you kill, you're out of jail, and you can have your own way. When he goes to court, it should be sentencing time. You will have 6 years of hard labor, and every 4 months, 3 cuts with the cat-9 tail. When that's done, it's going to register. You know, the Apostle Paul says to rebuke before all so that others are made fair. There are consequences for wrong actions, and known consequences where we could see what's happening. There will be a difference in us. So the government needs to take a proactive approach. We all understand that. The government really needs to take a proactive approach in dealing with these people who are becoming menaces to society.
Joan Davis Rolle, ZNS Network News.
Minister of National Security, along with a delegation of top law enforcement officials on Grand Bahama last week, meeting with religious leaders on the island. Both parties discussing crime prevention strategies on the island. Megan Shepard has this story.
Minister of National Security on Grand Bahama late last week, taking the opportunity to dialogue with the religious community during a meeting with the Pastors Forum. President of the forum, Pastor Wilbur Outen, says many churches on Grand Bahama have been doing their part through community outreach programs, and they are prepared to continue the fight against crime along with the support of the minister. Pastor Elvis Burrows adds that while they are doing their share, he believes that the Ministry of National Security can assist them in a more tangible way.
Through the Pastors Forum, we have we have done several community events. Last year, we did a intervention program at one of the junior high schools for marginalized, troubled male students, and so we want to highlight that. We have programs that all of our churches are involved in working with young people. The juvenile court sometimes would refer kids to us.
We see a lot of money is being spent on buying new police cars, training of police officers, but maybe some of that monies or resources can be diverted into programs, into parental training for children, because crime is really a symptom of a deeper issue. How could we use our resources to maybe impact children, boys programs, girls program, parental, and dealing with marital issues.
Minister for National Security, the Honorable Dr. Bernard Nodded, says that a major plank in the fight against crime lies in prevention. Minister for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Dr. Michael Darville, also at the forum, adding that crime is a very hot issue in the country, and he offers his full support to both the Pastors Forum and the Ministry of National Security.
I would like to see the church play a more positive role in the development of our youth, because by the time they reach the teens and the early 20s, their compass is set, and it's difficult to correct any ill development. You know, we've been having these listening fora, and one of the things that has really blown our minds is that the people in the communities, they know what's going on in communities, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and if we can just enlist them in the fight against crime, then I believe we'll go a very long way to reducing crime throughout the Bahamas.
I'm pleased to know that the Pastors Forum, which is a wide cross-section of denomination and religious leaders in Grand Bahama, is concerned about the issue of crime and will bring the minister up to date of issues as it relates to Grand Bahama as well as the nation. I'm here as Minister for Grand Bahama to give the full support necessary to the Minister of National Security and to answer any questions the pastors may have specifically to the island of Grand Bahama.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Stay with us. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition continues right after this.